everyone. I'm Rebecca Weber, and this is your Amac podcast, Better for America. You know, if you're not getting your political news from Amac, then you won't be informed about American politics. And to all of our Amacers listening, thank you so much for tuning in today and for sharing Amac news with friends and family. And that's why we want you to go ahead and visit Amac. Join over 2 million patriotic Americans who visit Amac for information, news, and discounts that you don't find anywhere else. Now, before we jump into my great interview with another great American patriot, I want to share with you Amac's social media update from Alexa Abella. Alexa, take it away.
Thank you, Rebecca. My name is Alexa, and this is your Better for America social media update. As this Hunter Biden mess continues, the White House and media have been scrambling to get this under control. Enraged at the court's refusal to investigate the obtained laptop hard drive that was said to have evidence of numerous illegal allegations, angry tech engineers took matters into their own hands by hacking into Hunter Biden's iCloud storage and leaking hundreds of pictures and videos all over the internet. And of course, the media has already done the most in efforts to cover this mess. I mean, coming up with excuses about how this content breaches fake news regulations and completely ignoring the countless evidence of federal crimes that have been committed. Why is the media defending a criminal anyway? I mean, probably because that criminal is a descendant of a Democrat. We all know that if this was a descendant, even a cousin twice removed of President Donald Trump, protesters would be outside the White House demanding repercussions as we speak. But there are videos and pictures of Hunter Biden smoking and weighing out illegal drugs, which have all been identified to be crack cocaine, by the way. And meanwhile, I might add, there is a video surfacing of Joe Biden back when he was a senator in the 80s, holding a gram or rock of crack cocaine, saying this is all you need to get 5 years in prison. Well, Joe Biden, where is that argument now when there is blatant video evidence of your own son weighing out 2.7 grams of crack cocaine? It is utter hypocrisy. And then plus you have countless videos of Hunter flailing around handguns and pistols, you know, another thing that the Democrats are so fond of. And then you have videos, literally enough to make a 10-minute compilation of Hunter having sexual relations and doing drugs with numerous prostitutes, even arguing with them over certain exchanges, and all of which have not received the slightest glimpse of national news coverage. And there's even screenshot evidence now of Google censoring search results for Hunter Biden iCloud by showing the removal of articles and content literally disappearing by the minute. Even though national television is keeping this hush and the internet is doing everything in its power to censor and protect this criminal, we here at Better for America will do whatever it takes to get the truth to you, our AMAC members, and the country that we love so much. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Alexa, and this has been your Better for America social media update.
Thank you so much, Alexa. I think that these updates are great. What do you all think listening? Let us know in the comments below, because we do care about what kind of news you want to hear. Now, today we're honored to have with us Ethan Peck. And Ethan Peck is a leader in areas of free enterprise, free markets, activism, and education. He's a professional who has spent time in political advocacy, as well as being an audio engineer and a music producer. And so many of us Americans are recognizing that the left has gone so far left. Ethan Peck has departed from the left and has migrated toward common sense, just as Ronald Reagan used to note that he moved as a Democrat to the Republican Party when the Democrat Party left him many, many years ago. Our guest is a wonderful example of this kind of courage and character, and he's got a master's degree in counterterrorism. Ethan Peck is really a leader at the National Center's Free Enterprise Project, and he comes to us with experience in social media, investment, markets, and political issues. Ethan, I'm thrilled to have you here with us. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, well, it's a pleasure speaking with you, and it's a pleasure speaking to members of AMAC.
Well, that's great, Ethan. You are so well informed on so many issues. So I do want to sort of start at the top if we could. I want to learn a little bit more about what you're doing right now and how the Free Enterprise Project works. What is the mission? What are the aims and highlights? And what have you done to date, if you could, just for openers?
Right. So the Free Enterprise Project is part of the National Center for Public Policy Research, and we essentially buy shares in woke corporations to use our influence as shareholders in order to combat a lot of the woke policies coming out of these woke corporations. And the whole idea is, instead of just giving up on American business and on our institutions, we take the same strategies that the left used to corrupt them and then implement them to kind of bring them back to neutral. And so go ahead.
Go ahead, please.
Oh, so yeah. So, we've been, name a big corporation, we're engaged in activism with them, whether it's Meta, Twitter, Amazon, the gas companies like Exxon and Chevron, who are now pushing, green energy. We're fighting them on the social level. We're fighting them on the environmental level. Anything that has to do with, if you've heard the term ESG, which stands for environmental social governments, or this notion of stakeholder capitalism, which we can get into, we're sort of in there as shareholders at the meetings pushing back.
This is so wonderful. I mean, this is really, really good stuff. We know how important this is here at Amac. I do want to drill down a little bit so that those who are listening can understand a little bit more of what you've done. I saw that you had recently offered a forward-leaning press release on how the Free Enterprise Project is going to these shareholder meetings at companies like Twitter, for example, and you're calling these companies out for their so-called diversity, equity, and inclusion policies, these DEI policies that are being rammed down the throats of employees, and you are really pressing them to stop discriminating. And it seems that they've been doing this for a very long time. Can you tell us a little bit more about that initiative and what the call for audits is, and how these companies are really violating the U.S. Constitution?
Absolutely. Well, I'm sure your listeners are informed about critical race theory and all of the kind of doublespeak associated with it. And so diversity, equity, and inclusion at the corporate level, it's just a corporate name for critical race theory. It's essentially the same thing as critical race theory, including, radical gender ideology and such, to try to push these woke social norms and hiring policies. And so what we do is we file proposals. If you own over $2,000 worth of shares in a company, you could file a proposal as a shareholder, not just us. If you're listening and you're a shareholder and you own over $2,000 worth, you can do it yourself, actually. And so we file proposals auditing the DEI policies. We basically request these corporations, Twitter is a perfect example. We did this at Twitter, asking them, can you run a non-discrimination audit of your diversity, equity, and inclusion policies? You seem to be so proud of it. You're championing it on your website, in your materials. You send it out to investors. You're very happy with your DI policies. So, then let's see, prove it to us that it's non-discriminatory. And the board refuses to abide by this audit, and they go against it. So that just goes to show you that they know it's illegal. They know that these hiring policies, hiring people by skin color, hiring people by gender identity and sexual orientation, that these things are against the law, that they violate the Civil Rights Act of 1964. And so they're trying to have it both ways. They're trying to break the law in secret and kind of push this woke ideology.
Can you believe? I mean, sometimes it's hard for me to believe that we're talking about these things right here in America. We've come so far to think that we're doing things that, my goodness, goes directly against the words that Martin Luther King spoke. We should never be judging people by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. And that's like such basic common sense. But this is exactly what they're doing. And we are so grateful that you are so insistent on corporate accountability and fairness and really getting these players to abide by the Constitution. Because somebody's got to speak up. And, if we get complacent and we don't think, it doesn't really impact me, it surely will impact you and impact future generations and America as a whole. So let me just talk a little bit more on this critical race theory, because what is the Free Enterprise Project doing to really go to parents and civic leaders around the country? Because so many people are concerned about this creeping in of Marxism, and we see it happening in our schools. We see it through critical race theory, and we know that this teaching really institutionalizes racism, which is absolutely something I'm so, I'm very passionate about speaking on this topic because we've got to protect our children who are being taught a bunch of lies. Marxism is not the answer. It is a horrific idea. It is so anti-constitutional, anti-American. And it flies in the face of everything that this country stands for. Can you share with us what you folks are doing to educate parents? And then in follow-up, is social media responsible? Social media companies, are they playing a big role in supporting really the left's agenda, specifically, critical race theory, and insisting that it be embraced by school districts?
Right. I think that you're absolutely correct that that this issue of creeping Marxism, the sort of slow boiling frog, kind of it's been going on for decades, and we haven't realized it until it kind of burst out from under the rug. But the good news is that it collapses very quickly under the tiniest bit of scrutiny. So it's very concerning that we're now embracing, open racism at corporations and schools. But if you just put a little bit of pressure, it crumbles. And so that's what we saw, for example, as you raised with the parents in Virginia, right? Parents, left and right, by the way, right, were able to come together and oppose this sort of ideology in schools. And so what we do as the Free Enterprise Project, we're trying to instigate the same sort of grassroots movement, because corporations really do belong to their shareholders. So if you're a shareholder, most Americans don't see it this way. They just kind of invest in the market and they don't look at it. They just wait for their returns. But the whole point is that just the same way you pay taxes to your school board and they decide, and you're therefore responsible for guiding the education, the same thing goes for the corporations. If you're providing capital to these corporations and then they're doing things that you don't like, well, it's on us. It's on us as Americans we have a responsibility to correct these things. There are our institutions. And so we have to put the pressure and speak out, just like you said, and inform and educate the people who might fall for the sort of double, they know, the woke know how to get to you. They'll say like, why wouldn't you embrace, anti-racism? But it's a trick. And so it's a trick. And so we have to, but people are waking up to that. And so what we do is we try to awaken people to that reality. We're also a shareholder we educate on shareholder activism. We don't just do the activism ourselves. So it's kind of two-pronged. On one hand, we go in there, we hold these corporations accountable. We talk to CEOs, we question them, we ask that we put the spotlight on them and we push them into a corner, and it works. And slowly, but the idea is that if we educate the public and we can have the same sort of movement in the boardroom as we did in the class at the classroom in Virginia, the way that parents stood up the school boards, we need parents and investors to stand up to corporate boards. And that's what we're doing.
Wonderful. Really good stuff. Is there a website that we can share for folks to get more information on how they can make sure that their voice is being heard? Go ahead and share that right now. We'll make sure we put it up on the screen as well.
All right. So it's freeenterpriseproject.org, or you can go to nationalcenter.org and go to the Free Enterprise Project. And we have publications there that educate about who the worst corporations are, what their worst offenses are, who are the worst CEOs, and what shareholder resolutions you can support and go against. And every year annually, we publish this report and guides as to how you yourself can get involved as a shareholder. And also you can reach out to us on there, and we're happy to talk with you, call us up and walk you through shareholder activism. And I just realized I didn't answer one of your last questions about social media. And I think that social media is this, I view it as this kind of double-edged sword, because on one hand, it's breaking down the mainstream media. It's breaking down all of the lies of the sort of gated institutional media and corporate media that they kind of work together and in unison. Everyone knows that ABC, CBS, NBC, and CNN, they all parrot the same nonsense. And so social media has been able to cut through that. And that's why the left is so adamant on censoring us, because, and so we see this at Twitter, right? For example, that's the best example. And I think that it's hopeful that that the truth will win, and that if we just keep it up and not be scared and not let the left bully you into silence, that we will eventually that the truth will surface. And so
Yeah.
the social media is a problem, but it could also be a tool. So we have to use it as a tool.
There you go. And it's tough, though, when you do have people in power and these social media companies that really have the ability to shut you up. They can censor, they can quiet you. We saw a president, kicked off of platforms for sharing his ideas, his views. So folks are a little bit squirrely, I think, when it comes to what they're posting, and certainly businesses have got to remain neutral. But again, it's I've been saying this for so long, for many, many months now, at least 12 months. We've been talking about the left's sort of their rule or ruin approach. They want to rule, or they believe things should go their way, and if we don't go along with them, they want to ruin it for the rest of us. And so here you have an example right here, social media companies who played such an active role, I believe, in the last presidential election. And one could argue that they're really they're becoming an arm of the Democratic Party, or at least they're certainly influenced. How do you see the future of their influence? Do you think that they present any concern for the 2022 election cycle? I think of social media platforms as really like the public square, right? Where we can
Right.
go online, we can speak our views, we can share our opinions. That's what it's all about here in America, right? Freedom of speech. But are they really neutral? I mean, I think we know that answer, but what kind of role might they play in 2022 and then going forward?
I think you're absolutely right that there's this sort of double standard that it's good when it helps them and it's bad when it doesn't. And
Right.
so we often see the left as being hypocritical, but I actually think that they have one standard. If it's good for us, it's good. If it's bad for us, it's bad. And so I think that with social media, it's the same way with the courts, right? The courts are a hammer used when you
Right.
can't use legislation, but when the courts actually do what they're supposed to do, they're political, right? So I think that social media for now is still favoring the left, but that the truth favors the right. And so that so long as every time they ban us, it helps us, in my opinion. So because people see that. And so I actually think that for now, regardless of all the pressure that they use to ban us and censor us, I think that social media has and will help us in the
I
2022
I
election.
hope so. I sure hope so. And I do think that if we're smart, I certainly think it can. But there are so many major issues out there, right? There are so many things, and it's hard to know where to go to get the information that you can trust. Um, but again, there are so many other things out there, I think, that we could be underestimating. I do want to ask you a question. As you look at the big picture, and as you look ahead towards, from now to the November elections, and you see everything from our economy and the energy sector, inflation, overspending, reactions to the Supreme Court decisions, everything from election integrity to open borders. And then, of
Right.
course, we see what's happening on the world stage. What do you think might be some of the biggest issues, or will be the biggest issues that will lead people and drive people to vote?
Okay. Well, first of all, we can't endorse any candidate because we're a nonprofit. But as terms of the issues go, as far as the issues go, I think that it's inflation. I think you hit the nail on the head. I think it's promising that the conservatives are not only focused on like, oh, let's just have a few tax cuts and leave the social issues alone. I think that it's good that, because what happens is that it boils under the rug and then it comes out, and now we're faced with discrimination in the workplace and radical gender ideology imposed on kids. So I think that it's very promising that we're finally pushing back against a lot of the social issues. But I think that the factor that's most likely to decide the election is inflation, because I think that whether you're apolitical, left, right, center, whatever it is, you see the prices at
It's
the pump.
impacting you. Yeah, it's hitting
Exactly.
your wallet. I mean, you
Exactly.
feel it. And when you feel it, at the end of the day, people care most about what impacts them personally.
Mhm.
And when you've got less money each month, and your money doesn't take you as far, you've got to recognize that there's something isn't right. And we're seeing numbers that we've never seen before. I do want to return, if I could, to the core mission of the project before we let you go. You are all educators and leaders in shareholder activism. This is just Absolutely wonderful. What would you say are the leading shareholder rights and obligations, maybe even we could call them obligations as a shareholder, that we might be forgetting about, or we tend to not really think about? Because I know many on the left get very active in pushing companies to be on the left, but conservatives and free market believers, I think, are oftentimes less active in this way. So what should we be doing? What can our listeners do? And how can AMAC members get more involved?
I agree absolutely. I think that the left has an activist mentality, right? For decades, they're synonymous with counterculture, but today they are the culture. So what we have to do is we have to also embrace that attitude of counterculture. And I think that it could be a winning strategy for us. That the right, it's sort of reactionary, but now's the time to be reactionary. It's gone too far. And so I think that if you're a shareholder, and most people, they might have a pension fund, and the pension funds just invest in this sort of an index fund or an ETF fund, and they don't pay attention to their investments. And I think that's the wrong way about going it. The number one responsibility that you have as a shareholder is to vote your proxies. So every year, during shareholder season, it's during the spring, okay, you'll get proxy ballots in the mail. Most people just throw them out, right? Because they're only investing because of inflation, right? You have no choice but to put your money in the market, because if you just keep it in the bank, your money will lose its value. So if you want to save for retirement, if you want to save and so that you could pay off college for your kids and your grandkids, which is a noble thing and every American should be doing it, you have to invest in the market. But you don't want to pick stocks. A lot of people are opposed to that. They don't want to take risks. They invest. They give it to a money manager, or their pension fund invests in these big ETF funds like BlackRock, and they invest in 200 companies, 300 companies, and you just don't look at it. But that's the wrong approach. The right approach is to be an engaged investor, to know who you're buying. I can't tell you how many times somebody's come up to me and said, "I'm very bothered by Amazon," and then you do a little digging, and they own Amazon. So if you're an owner of Amazon, it's your fault. Take some personal responsibility. Don't just blame the world, and go to the shareholder meetings. Ask the CEO a question. You could buy one share in a company and attend the shareholder meeting. For example, this year, I attended the American Airlines meeting, and I asked them if the DEI policies apply to hiring pilots. Because you would hope that when they hire pilots, they just hire by competence, because you don't want the plane crashing, right? And so he said, "Yeah, absolutely. We definitely apply diversity, equity, and inclusion when we hire pilots." And so I put, that got a lot of media attention. And so all you need is one share to go into the meeting, pose a question to the CEO, hold a spotlight to them, vote your proxy ballots when they come in the mail, and get engaged. And if we could have this kind of grassroots movement, the way that the grassroots movement in Virginia with the parents at the school boards happened, this is what will hold corporations accountable. So that's what I would tell members of AMAC. Your pension funds, your 401ks, the companies that you invest in, know what you invest in, and just be active.
Excellent. Very good. Very, very important, Ethan. Thank you so much. This is very refreshing to hear that you're really doing something about it. We love what you're doing. We're going to go ahead and put those links here. People can click on those links and get at more information to understand what you can do and how you can understand who you're investing with to begin with, because that's so important. Make the first step. Know where you're putting your money, because we've got to, if that is one certain way that we know that we can make a difference. If everyone did this, Ethan, boy, imagine how many people would be then listening, because at the end of the day, businesses need to make money and be profitable to stay in business. Ethan, thank you so much for a great discussion and for your time today and for standing up for what is right.
It was a pleasure.
Excellent. And we do hope to have you back with us again, especially as this political cycle gains lots of steam. And I want to thank all of those listening out there. Thank you so much for tuning in. And if you haven't downloaded the AMAC News app, you can listen to this show and track all kinds of breaking news right there on the AMAC News app. Please make sure to hit that subscribe button, follow, like, and share wherever you are on social media. Until next time, I'm Rebecca Weber. This is your podcast, Better for America. God bless you and have a great day, everyone.
You're listening to the Better for America podcast, presented by AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens. To learn more about AMAC and all it has to offer, visit us at www.amac.us.